right, y'all, get ready for another edition of News and Trends with your host, Dave and Lynn.
Welcome. You are listening to our weekend edition News and Trends with Dave and Lynn. My name is Leonard Young, CEO of National Black Guide, Black Media Specialist, all around good guy. I got my partner, Dave.
Hey guys, how's everything? I'm Dave Coker with Dave Mark Inc., event planner, promoter, and all around gooder guy than Lynn.
Oh, really? We are doing that this Friday?
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. You know, we equal. Okay.
So basically, we the goodest.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, got it.
Or English teachers would say we the best.
Okay, I mean, I definitely take that too.
Yeah.
How's your Friday going, Dave?
It's going all right so far. Looking forward to the weekend. They're talking about more snow though.
I know, I heard. Yep.
Yeah. Crazy. It's crazy. But I'm getting tired of the snow on the weekends. We needed the snow like
Monday through Thursday.
Yeah, or Sunday into Monday.
Yeah, yep, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, it's funny because I know they're expecting snow for a lot of people down south too, Alabama, Atlanta, those areas. So basically this weather is saying anybody can get it.
Global warming is real, y'all. Y'all can say what y'all want. Global warming is real because we getting snow in all these places that you would have never thought we'd be getting snow in.
Right.
So it's crazy. So, but anyway, what we talking about, guy?
Yeah, so just thinking about different subjects. So of course, Martin Luther King Day was this past Monday. I'm sure we probably have a lot of comments regarding that and what people did and how people remembered. But one thing I was kind of thinking about for us to kind of talk about today was, when we think of Martin Luther King, we think of a legacy that he left, and a lot of it don't even realize that he died at a young age. So I saw his birthday was a couple of days before the holiday Martin Luther King Day, and they said this year he would have turned 93. So he was definitely alive, and maybe not my lifetime, but some of our lifetimes. But today, I was thinking we could just kind of discuss what his legacy meant to us, and kind of how we see that moving forward. On our last show we were kind of talking about Maya Angelou, and we are just talking being on the quarter, and we were kind of talking about remembering some of these legacies and how do we keep these legacies going and to conduct ourselves in the spirit of some of these great people who have passed, before us.
Well, what's pretty unique here is because we kind of come from, slightly different eras. I'm a child of the 60s. I was born in 1960, and so
damn.
No.
I had to get you like Kevin Hart and Don Cheadle. He got him. He's like, oh yeah.
Yes, I was born in 1960. Okay, so matter of fact, I am very proud to say next month I'll be 62 years old. So I came up doing that. That was coming up as a child during the craziest time of the civil rights movement. During that time we lost Kennedy and both Kennedys, John F. and Robert F. and Malcolm, and we lost Martin Luther King, some of the most influential people during that particular time when it came to the civil rights movement and so forth and so forth. So when you look at a person, when you look at the time that I came up, the 60s and the 70s, and looking at the gradual changes that went on during that particular time, from not being able to do certain things to being able to do some things to being able to do more things, it was just, I guess I could say that I came up during a perfect time as far as the transition periods were going. Then you, being the age that you came up during a slightly different time, because of course, quite quite naturally, there were a lot more things available and a lot more things that you were openly able to do. And so you had a different experience, you know, during your time coming up than I had coming up. I went to all Black schools during my time, you know, during that particular time, from elementary school all up to high school. But then my senior year of high school is when they said, okay, enough of segregated schools. We're going to now put you in a busing situation and integrate all the schools. So now that was something that was sort of one of the things that was part of the King dream and legacy, was being able to go to school with little Black boys and white girls and white kids, white boys and so forth, to have that happen. That was something that was one of his things. So, and fortunate enough, I came up during a period of time that I saw the transition go from one end, from being segregated to the desegregation of the schools. So what's your thoughts on what I just said?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think for myself coming up, and I guess I turned 45 this year, just to give anybody a time frame. But, we were coming up in the memory of Dr. King. So, of course, I believe he was assassinated in 68 or 69. I was born in 76. So, a lot of what and so one thing I will say.
Let me stop you, and I don't mean to be rude there, but when you said you were born in 76, do you remember when you first heard of Martin Luther King?
I do not, but what I will say is, even though I went to a predominantly white middle school, mm-hmm. we had a lot of Black history there. I mean, my I guess my social studies, my history teacher at the time was a white man, but compared to what I hear now about what they're being taught in school regarding Black history, I mean, we were taught a lot. We saw, and I can't remember if this was a combination of classes or one class. We watched the series Roots. I think we watched the whole first season. Mm-hmm. That in middle school, that was definitely eye-opening. And if I can give some perspective, my kids are, or my wife and our kids are right now like 9, 10, actually they're 10, 11, 12, and 13. We sat them down to watch Roots probably right around the end of the summer. They were terrified. They were crying. They were distraught. They were
really?
Like, yes, they were hiding their heads. And, I definitely understand, but, that came to tell me that they don't get the same introduction to Black history that we got, because we were watching this in school. Was it tough to watch? Yes. Did it make you feel a certain way? Yes. Was it disturbing on many levels? Yes. But I also appreciate it because it was real. They didn't try to, whoever that teacher was, God bless his soul, but he didn't try to, apparently he didn't sugarcoat. Like, we learned about that. We learned about the Ku Klux Klan. We learned about, the hangings and, just all the injustices. And, I feel like that gave me a good perspective going into high school and going to college. But I just want to recap by saying I brought it up because I don't feel like they're getting even the real of what they could be giving them in school these days.
Wow, you said a lot. And yes, well, my next question to you, with what everything you just said about, especially watching your kids watching Roots and whatever, what have they said they have been taught in school about Black history, if anything?
Yeah, so I mean, unfortunately, so just in full disclosure, up until 6th grade, my kids went to a dual language school. It was like English and Spanish. And to be honest, what they taught there was just cookie cutter stuff. Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, Thurgood Marshall. So basically, I'll say they really weren't taught anything. Upon moving to high school, I'm sorry, middle school, a little bit more what they taught is a little bit deeper, but I can honestly say by them not knowing about the movie Roots and watching it and being like, I agree. Some of Roots was pretty graphic, and even watching it as an adult, I don't cringe, but it makes you feel a certain way. And I'm glad that my wife and I were there to kind of explain stuff as it was happening, because I feel like watching some stuff like that, you need an explanation. You need
Yes.
someone to kind of clarify. But long story short, and I think we talked about it before, but Black history now, like we're finding out, like we're learning stuff every day about Black history. And I still feel that the stuff they're being taught in schools is just the cookie cutter stuff. Um,
Yeah.
and I think unless you have a Black teacher and maybe a Black teacher, I mean, are they going to give you the real, or are they just going to satisfy the curriculum requirements?
Well, I'm sure that there are still some restraints that they have to have in teaching. If you had a real Black teacher and they were teaching what they really should be teaching, I'm sure that there's still some restraints being put on them to not say everything.
Yeah,
If you know what
I'm
I'm
sure.
Yeah. So, but I want to go back to the children watching Roots. I had a similar experience coming up. You talked about you watched Roots in middle school, right? Is that when you said you saw it?
I did.
There was a movie, my first experience ever seeing the prejudice side of things, and I guess you could say it was our Roots at that time, was Miss Cicely Tyson was in a movie called Sounder.
Okay.
Sounder is another one of those movies that's in the Deep South, and it's about, of course, a lot of racism and so forth. But it was a movie that none of us wanted. They took the whole seventh grade. I even posted something about this recently on Facebook, talking about Cicely Tyson, and Sidney Poitier. As far as both of them passing away, and I mentioned this movie, how it changed my life. Going to see this movie. I was in seventh grade, middle school, just like you. And they took a bunch of seventh graders to go see this movie at the movie. And we're all trying to figure out, we're thinking we're going to see something really good, whatever. And we sit there and we're watching this movie Sounder. Man, people were crying. It was like eye-opening, seeing how Black people were being treated and so forth. And it was just a movie that was just definitely one that just stayed with you, And it was, and it had a decent ending. It wasn't a sad ending, but it was still the fact that everything that led up to that. And so, as a child, I remember going home and telling my mom about this movie, and and I was just like, they were so wrong how they treated them, and and having conversations. Because if something hits the right way, and if a teacher is teaching what they're supposed to be teaching, there should be conversations.
Yeah,
about
definitely.
definitely
A lot of questions.
Yeah, definitely. And and even after that movie, were you guys asked questions when you after Roots?
So I mean, I'm sure we did, because there was so much going on. Like, and some stuff we understood. I'm sorry, some stuff the Black kids in the class understood. Some of the white kids couldn't understand about how some of their ancestors were treating, African slaves. So, I think there was some difference in conversation as far as perspective. I think just being a Black child, you're thinking, wow, this is how my people were treated. This is what we had to endure. Some of the white, the white kids who may have been a little more conscious at the time were probably saying they couldn't imagine that their ancestors were treating people that way. I would imagine. So I'm sure that's probably where a lot of the conversation was. And just we always talk about all the industries that were built off the backs of Black people. And I think that's when we think about slavery, and we think about all these families that got rich, the Rockefellers, the Waltons. A lot of them did it off the backs of slaves and African Americans.
That's true. That's true. When you look at our place in history, it's just recently that we're starting to really see our place in history, and a lot of it has come over, and that tells you about what Martin Luther King did, and his I want to say his foreknowledge as far as what he saw coming. Because when we started having the issues with the race riots over the last few years that we've been having, but starting with the with all the people dying at the hands of the police, and especially Mr. Floyd, what happened with him, because that was the backbreaker to, because he had other ones prior to him, but that was the backbreaker because it happened and they had clear footage of it happening.
Right, live on TV.
Live on, it was live at 11. So there, it was just no way to get around what happened. And of course, the people reacted the way they did. There were a lot of looting and a lot of rioting. Excuse me. We had people up on bridges and highways stopping traffic. I mean, just like back in the 60s and so forth. So it really started.
And just like the 60s too, at that time we had a lot of police who were I mean, like some of the stuff we saw, like a lot of police that were using excessive force in order to contain them as well.
Right. They had the shields, they had the army tank, they had the tanks out there.
Yeah, and, the tear gas, all that.
I remember
the only thing they didn't have were the hoses.
Right. Because I remember, I don't know, you saw the video that Ivan did when they were riding downtown.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it set things on fire and all that stuff. Just sitting there watching that, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is taking us back to where we were before. But unfortunately and fortunately at the same time, it did make some changes happen. People started listening. They started getting people's attention. The Juneteenth thing happened after that, where that's finally being recognized as far as being a national holiday, federal holiday, I should say, and soon to be a national holiday. And then we started seeing these statues disappear and these buildings' names being changed, and because of what we thought we knew, we really didn't know the whole story. And the story started being checked out. And we started seeing that these people that we were lauding, giving that holidays to, Columbus Day and all of this stuff, wasn't really who we thought they were.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I always like to bring up Columbus Day because I was born on Columbus Day, October 12th. And when I was in elementary school and middle school, Columbus Day was a day off from school. And then slowly it started changing from being a day off to being recognized to being questioned. And kind of like we said, now it's Indigenous Peoples Day. October 12th is Indigenous Peoples Day. So, I definitely agree with the transitions and, the increase. And you are right. I think, I think it was a generation thing too. So people who were alive during Martin Luther King and when he was assassinated during their time frame, that resonated with them. And I don't want to compare George Floyd to Martin Luther King, but that's almost like our 2020 awakening. I think that was a point where people were like, man, what's going on? This has got to stop. We got to do something. I saw that Roland Martin put out a tweet, and I kind of chuckled when I saw it. He said, if you are a corporation and you're putting out quotes and images of Martin Luther King on your social media pages, and you don't have any initiatives to support Black businesses, patronize Black-owned media, have any people of color on your board or senior management, then we're going to drag your ass like all up and down, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But, you
Right.
know, I do agree, because, you know, I think, you know, for corporations now, it's trendy to, you know, put out the Martin Luther King quotes, to use his likeness. And a lot of these businesses that definitely don't support, you know, if I'll just call out Bargain World, because we talked about Bargain World, but you know, for those companies like Bargain World, if they had a Martin Luther King weekend special on hair, and, you know, because, you know, a lot of these beauty salons are not owned by African Americans, but
Oh yeah,
just,
definitely not.
you know, just the amount of people who are also putting out sales promos for Martin Luther King Day weekend and have never supported the cause.
Yeah, that's true, and they're just opportunity. I can't even get the word out.
Yeah, opportunists.
Opportunists that are out there just trying to take advantage of his name and what he stood for, and know that if people see that they will be out there trying to support those businesses because of who he was, you know. And it's a shame because, you know, as far as we've come, we still have a lot more to go. You know, we're in a good place right now because you can walk into any place you want to, not because you're white, not because you're Black, just because you're a person. You know, you can do that. But there's still some places that don't want you there, if you know what I'm saying. You know, you can walk in there, but you might be at risk.
Yeah. Well, or like you said, you can walk in there, they're gonna follow you around the store. You know, they're gonna keep eyes on you.
Or they're gonna make sure they follow you out the store.
Right.
Know,
so Dave, let me ask you a question. Since you've kind of have gotten the opportunity, maybe even the privilege, well, maybe not the privilege, you've had the opportunity to kind of view both incidents of Martin Luther King being assassinated, you know, the George Floyd killing. Mm-hmm. Would you kind of compare them as far as the nation and maybe the world's reaction to the incident?
You can compare those situations by the way the people reacted, yes, because people were upset, they were mad, and they reacted out of anger and frustration. They were tired of being treated as second class citizens. And and you can compare it in another way as well, because even with Martin Luther King and everything that he was doing back then and all the marches and so forth, what did you always see? You didn't want to necessarily see it, but they were there. There was always white people there with them as well. Okay. And even what's happened over the last few years with some of the things that have happened with the riots and people looting and all that stuff, there were white people there too.
There were. And also in their defense, there were a lot of people who were protesting in support of George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, and the organization as well.
It wasn't all just about looting or anything like that. A lot of people were just upset. They were just upset, period. I mean, you know, our history is full of race riots all over the country. You know, we got LA, we got Detroit, look, I was an 8-year-old kid when the National Guards locked down Wilmington, Delaware, because of what happened with Martin Luther King. When Martin Luther King was assassinated, people lost their minds. I'm telling you, they lost their mind, and people were ready to punch or shoot or any white person they saw at the time. You know, it was crazy. And I just remember there was a 6 o'clock curfew. You could
Wow.
not be outside on the streets after 6 o'clock at night.
And what would happen if you're out past 6 o'clock? They take you to jail?
You got arrested. Yes, you got arrested. The National Guards, the MP police for the National Guard were riding on the streets with guns in hand.
Wow.
Okay. You know, and I lived in Riverside at the time. And yeah, I remember seeing them riding up and down the street on Governor Prince and riding back in our neighborhood and so forth, because people were losing their mind at that particular time. You know, when you look at well, there's a couple of movies that were very popular where they talk about where you see that Martin Luther King was killed and they said they just shot Dr. King and everybody just lose their mind because he was the hope. He was the guy that everybody just knew had the ear. Because keep in mind, he was the one guy that the white people would listen to because he was considered harmless. Like you couldn't get Malcolm to talk to them people. They didn't want no parts of Malcolm. Matter of fact, to this day, they said it was the CIA that took him out,
Right.
to this day. You know what I'm saying? They didn't want no parts of him. But, they monitored everything that Martin did, but they couldn't find that he had an ulterior motive to other than trying to do what his people needed him to do, and not just his people, because he was doing it for the world. He wanted everybody to be equal. Okay. He wasn't trying to set us up to be the lead race. He just wanted us to have the same.
To be inclusive.
Right. That's what it was. And even to this day, the worst thing that could have happened, but also the best thing that could have happened was when 45 was in office. Okay, I ain't gonna say his name, but you know what I'm talking about. Okay, because he showed the ignorance all the way around. Anything, when January 6th last year happened, that was the coup de grace of his whole thing. They just convicted like 12 of those guys. So it's crazy. That whole thing was a mess. And when you can, who would have? Every time I talk about it, my blood just boils about that whole thing. Who would ever?
January 6th, right?
Yeah, who would ever think that something like that could happen in Washington D.C.
We're at the nation's capital.
At the nation's capital.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny. Like every time
we touch the fence.
Yeah, I mean, every time I see those people climbing up the walls, and even climbing the walls, a couple of them fell off, fell back down, and got up, and I'm just like, okay, if this had been any other ethnicity, the cops would have had their rifles out. They would have been shooting them.
Yeah, we would have got to the wall.
Yeah, I
mean, we
wouldn't
have got to that wall. Fact, look, we would have been shot dead prior to getting to that wall. Come on, think about it. Them people watching, I'm sure those people were looking out the window saying, oh, they're climbing the walls. Nobody did anything.
No, they didn't. And, in fact, they really did not do anything because they had a free reign. I mean, it was almost like they got a hall pass. Now, I mean, the video cameras are going, but, I was just shocked that they basically did whatever they wanted at the Capitol.
That's what they did. Yeah. I mean, the video said it all. I mean, the video said it all. Even when they're going through the halls and they're breaking the glass in the building, they're knocking people over.
They're chasing people.
The Capitol Police just was overmatched. I mean, and you're thinking to yourself, why didn't they have more people in place that day?
Right. Yeah, because they knew they were coming. Like it wasn't It wasn't a surprise. And I think
You
they
know,
were there the night before too.
you know why, don't you? Because it was a bunch of white people. Come on, let's keep it real.
Yeah, I
Because
mean, I'm not debating it.
you know, if it was a bunch of us showing up there on that day to protest, you know how many different agencies would have been there?
Right.
Okay. So no way that would have happened if it was all us. Okay. But that was the foolishness of the leader of that whole thing that said it was okay to do that. I was just watching a rally that he did the other day. All these people there still supporting him. And he's still talking the crazy, and he's still talking about the election.
Yeah,
How long are you going to talk about the election?
Until he won again.
And you know, that's possible, right? You know, it's possible.
Yeah,
that
no,
he
I
could-
mean, I don't doubt it. With the approval or disapproval of the current administration, yeah, I mean, I can definitely see some changes, and that's probably prime time for him to kind of stick his head up and try to, get
yeah,
back in there.
yeah, yeah. So, you know, and speaking of that, and I know we got to wrap soon, but speaking of that, we left out, we didn't talk about one change that came from the Martin Luther King. What I used to call it in the past, I used to call it the Martin Luther King experience. That's what I used to call it, you know. But we had something to come out of it that we haven't mentioned yet. We had our first Black family in the White House. We never in our lifetime thought that would happen. Okay. And even though, you know, it was always questioned about how Black Obama, no, let me give him his respect, President Obama was, we knew he had a Black first lady.
Yes, we did.
Definitely had a
Black.
first, you know, and so, you know, but they were the first family of color to be, you know, in the White House. And they were there for 8 years. It wasn't a short stay. They were there for 8 years. And I'm sure if either one of them wanted to run again, they would give a hard run. You know,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, you
Well,
know, Michelle
they are talking about Michelle 2024, but she probably don't want to do it though.
Michelle don't want no parts of that.
No,
You know,
I'm about to say she wants to enjoy her life right now.
Did you watch the interview she did on BET?
I did not.
It was very good. It was a very good interview. And you know, so and that was another thing, because we had two intelligent people in the White House. This was no, we're gonna put somebody in there just to make them happy thing. They came in, they went to work. Both of them went to work. So that's another benefactor of King's dream. So, but you know, this kind of conversation has to continue. We got to make sure we continue to talk to our kids and to make sure our kids stay alert and stay woke about things. So I really enjoyed this topic today. I hope you guys did. You guys have been listening to Dave and Len, Newz and Trendz with Dave and Len. And, you know, if you have any feedback, just make sure you get back to us about that, okay? And Len?
Yep. So, you know, hope everyone, Black History Month coming up. You know, I hope that you are able to get the knowledge you need. Make sure you check back for our show, because all Black History Month, we're gonna be giving a lot of interesting facts that you don't hear every day. Make sure you follow us on all podcast networks, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean. We'll be coming everywhere. If not everywhere now, we're coming everywhere soon. And make sure you check us out. And other than that, Dave, hope you have a good weekend. And we will
Enjoy the rest of your weekend, sir. And let us know, but let's do it on Sunday night instead of Saturday.
Right, exactly. All right, until next time, everybody.
Good night.
Tune in next week, ladies and gentlemen, for another edition of Newz and Trendz with your hosts, Dave and Lynn.